unarmed combat, the art of hurling your bones at someone else's skeleton, hoping to hurt the meat contained within. You know, for such a simple concept, it has been a hotly contested debate across all of traditional martial arts and has continued to bleed into modern martial arts today. But who's right? I mean, a Wing Chun practitioner will tell you that a vertical fist is the most direct line to the target, is the most efficient, and therefore the superior punch. Karate, on the other hand, insists that one hand must turn over and the other must do the opposite every time. Then you've got boxers of one school of thought who are going to say, when you throw a hook, you have to go palms down because that's the only way to do a hook. You get the shoulder engagement. Then you got other boxers who say, no, it has to face you every time because it's more aligned with your neutral anatomical position of your skeletal structure. So who's right? I'm here to tell you it's me. Well, first things first, if any person tells you there is only one particular way to do something and only they have the answer, then I know you can't fight. And you're a bitch. Let's start with probably the most popular argument, the hook. Normally this debate is about the lead hook for reasons that I'll explain in a minute. Now, like I said earlier, punching is just delivering force through your bones into theirs. And because we're operating under the laws of physics, there are certain angles and structures that are stronger than others. Look at construction, for example. Making structures that need to hold and resist a lot of force. What shapes do we normally see? Usually straight lines and right angles. Very strong. This is why in boxing you have straights, hooks, uppercuts, 90-degree angle. Now, obviously, 91 degrees is not inherently completely weak, and 90 degrees is 10 times stronger. So you don't have to be exactly 90, but that is a good neighborhood to be in terms of your punch. It might be a little short, might be a little long. The overhand is a bit of an open angle, but we're still in the ballpark generally. You do not see a lot of punches like that. Why? Because the force goes over there. We want it going here, here, here. Okay, so we have our 90-degree angle. Now what? This, what do we do? The answer, as is usually in life, it depends on distance. Okay, now some people throw their hooks religiously. Only throw this way, only throw this way. Why? I don't understand why you have to marry yourself to one kind of hook when it's not going to be optimal. Let's take a look at the angles I can create from different distances. Let's say I'm at full extended range, right? If I step in, I can touch him, otherwise I can't. If I try and hit him with the palm in angle, I'm almost at a straight basically, and I probably should just throw the straight at this point. If I'm too close and I try and turn my wrist over, I end up punching him with the back two knuckles of my hand. Now, yeah, you can say, I can hit him at this angle or whatever, but ultimately, if we are facing each other and I hit him at a 90-degree angle with this hook, there is a portion of his face that is going to intercept my ring and pinky knuckles before it hits my larger and stronger first two knuckles. Now, in a boxing glove, this doesn't matter as much. You have this large surface area that the force gets dissipated across. So even if you catch him with a glancing blow, most of that force is going to go into the target. That being said, plenty of my sparring partners have said they could feel my knuckles through the gloves. So you should still practice with accuracy. The key here is the distance, right? Whatever gets my forearm and knuckles aligned into the target that I want to hit, right? So now if I want to blast Bob in the side of the head with some strictly lateral force, I can do that using any kind of rotation I want because I'm aiming for this very large target. Now, sure, we've caused some brain damage, maybe scored some points in the fight, but we want that sweet knockout, the one that everyone talks about, which is the hook. There's a reason hooks create such great knockouts, and that is because we are built in a certain direction. Our eyes, senses, limbs, and joints face forward. We're very good at traveling forward, fighting forward, but we're not so good side to side or rotationally. That's the key, the rotation. See, your brain is built a lot like everything else in your body. The structures align in a certain direction. So taking force forward to back is a lot safer than taking force around. And that's exactly what happens when you hook someone. But if you hook them directly in the side of the head, they move this way. But we want to twist their brain up. You see, it's in this direction, the rotational plane, where your brain structures are the weakest. So when they twist, they break much easier, which causes more brain damage and better knockouts. So we don't need to blast Bob like a freight train. All we need to do is clip his chin and spin his head around, right? Not only is that going to spin his brain around, twisting it like a wet towel, but as a fighter, he is going to snap his head back to face the target again. Your brain is suspended in fluid. And we all know objects in motion tend to stay in motion. So when you move that brain this way with the skull, and then the skull rotates back quickly to counteract, your brain slams into your skull as they hit each other in a head-on collision. As if his neurons were raw spaghetti, we are going to twist and snap the parts of his brain that keep him awake. So to do that, you want to hit the chin and just the chin. You want to take just the chin and spin it around the center, not move the whole center over here. So now, if I'm in close, which I am if I'm throwing hooks, particularly the lead hook, if I rotate that palm towards me, now there is nothing here to run into his jaw. So I can clip just his chin, putting all of that force here instead of here. You just want to spin the chin. Coincidentally, my knuckles make for a very nice frame right around Bob's chin here, which gives me a little bit of a grip so I can really grab on. Can I, Bob? Listen, you're not One Punch Man. Okay. I'm sorry. You're not One Punch Man. You may have to train multiple techniques. I'm sorry. Okay, so unless you're completely obliterating every single opponent with one punch, which you aren't, learn both and learn to use them at the appropriate time. Sometimes I want to hit him like a truck. Sometimes I just want to spin him like a top. And I don't need maximum power because I'm not moving his whole mass. I'm just moving a tiny bit, right? Lifting Bob and carrying him over here is infinitely more difficult than spinning him around a central point. It's so much easier, which means you can put less force into the strike, which means it can be faster, which means it can be more invisible, which means it can be more effective. So if you just need to clip his chin, just throw it out. You can flick that out and spin the chin pretty effectively. right? So instead of this wind up, big, powerful, telegraphed hook, you can throw it very short, very tight, very quick. Spin the chin. In fact, to double down on this effect, I'll kind of button hook my palms in short hook for an extra flicking force. So I'm not just throwing this sideways here, although that's plenty effective by itself, but I'm sort of pulling his chin in this very sharp angle here as I retract the punch. So I strike and I, like I'm grabbing it and pulling it this way. Very small, and you don't want to overdo it. But that just the thought, the cue, if you will, is button hook. Even there, you can see Bob's chin is kind of sticking to my knuckle. This is really just from the friction of my skin and the wedge into the spot between my knuckles here. Okay, so now that we've solved the hook debate forever, what about straights? Now, one of the styles of karate I practiced was Ishinryu. It's sort of a derivation of Goju-ryu. It's an Okinawan branch, which is mentioned on this part of my belt here. It's almost exclusively vertical fist. And the principle is pretty sound. Everything is drawn in to protect yourself, right? Not a lot of extension out here. A lot of grappling, short techniques like elbows. But then there's the rest of the karate styles that do the turnover. I've boxed turning over. I've boxed with vertical punches. I've done this in Krav Maga, karate, boxing, kickboxing. In my personal opinion and experience, it mostly doesn't matter. Now, there are some caveats, right? But again, the principle is the same. You want to make a straight line through your skeletal structure from the ground into the target. So you'll note that the line of my attack doesn't really change much, if at all, by doing this. And you can argue, yes, it does, but the difference is minimal. What I think is more important is the elbow. I think the neutral grip or vertical fist solves the problem of chicken wing elbows, telegraphing, in a way that's more difficult to explain, particularly to new or inexperienced people. It's like, you have to turn the elbow over, but you have to keep it in your frame. That's two variables that they have to think about. However, I will say that when I spar, compete, train, right, anything outside of kata where I have to look a certain way, I almost always use a vertical or slightly canted fist. It's maybe like 30-degree angle is what is most often happening. I personally feel, I don't know if this is true, I might be biased, right? When people feel that they're punching very fast because they punch kind of like this. I only punched for like 6 frames. Yeah, because you skipped like 18 of the other ones. To me, it just feels a little bit faster, cleaner, less telegraphed, and safer. I have blocked many, many, many kicks just by having my elbows around my ribs. That's all it takes. I don't even have to move for a lot of these blocks. People will just block here, and I just have my elbows pointed, ready, And I've broken people's toes doing nothing. Just so the faster you can get your elbows back into a defensive posture, the better off you are, right? Because usually when you start throwing at someone, they rarely go, or unless you go to the kind of parties I go to, they are going to fire back. So you need to retract your punch, A, because you don't want to give them your arm, one of your weapons, or a point of leverage on you. But you also don't want to leave this open. So keeping the elbow down at all times means even if in the middle of the punch I have to abandon it, right? He changes tactics, he fires off, he's faster than me. I can't commit to the full punch. If I'm rotating here, not only do I have to pull backwards, I have to rotate in. And it's just two things instead of one. And in a game of centimeters and milliseconds, that matters. But I will admit that turning feels like I can really engage through the very end of the strike. So I turn a little bit, just a little bit. Now, this means that my elbows aren't completely 100% this way. They're maybe off by a little bit, just to get that elbow kind of out there as an extra weapon, like I said before. Kind of like Batman's gloves. Here's the other thing about vertical or slightly canted straight punches. Keeping that elbow in allows me to rest it on my rib cage. So I don't really have to hold my hands up in guard. This is a resting posture for me. All I have to do is half curl my arms up. I can be here all day without burning out. Here's another reason to keep your elbows in and keep the fists more vertical. Because your upper arm is resting on your rib cage, you can really deliver a lot of force into your forearm and fist at the source from your center, right? So instead of it being more muscles and everything else, you're literally running into your own arm to propel it forward. You know, I should have counted these first. Another benefit is that if this punch gets interrupted at any point before the end, if he moves forward, right? When I collapse into a frame that is braced against my bones. So I can't be moved here. And I have this amount of space locked in. My elbow is actually touching the top of my hip. Depending on your skeleton, maybe you can't do that, but the principle is the same. I don't have to use my muscles. My hand is completely relaxed. It's being closed by Bob's weight. So everything stays in the line of strength the whole time, even on the way back. If you watched my 1-inch punch video, you'll see that this really helps get that snaking, whipping technique out in a way that requires a lot less effort. Or you can just put even more effort into it and it'll be even more effective. Remember, we are slamming bones. Okay? You're going to nitpick and, well, actually, everyone's bones are shaped different. They're different lengths. Nobody is even symmetrical. So your right and left punches can never be exactly the same. What matters is the principle. So rotate as much as you feel you need to for your fastest, strongest, most direct strike. Throw your punches in a way that sets you up for maximum success. Not getting that 1% of extra power by twisting everything into it while compromising a bunch of other things. Simplicity is the key, right? Unfortunately, you do not see competitive wushu practitioners in the UFC succeeding, okay? Because there's a few lines and angles that work really well, and the rest don't. So just find those few angles, and that's it. The minutia, it doesn't really matter. Look, I've been in the traditional game for a very long time, the modern martial art game for a very long time, and it is hilarious. The same myths. Oh, what if there's an ancient, strange technique that's actually the best of all, and we just all just forgot it and stopped using it for some reason, but it's somewhere in the old what. Look, I've got 3 black belts. I've I've had the conversations of the secret katas, okay, the secret hidden techniques. It kills me to say it, but it's bullshit. Okay, okay. The secret technique is not some super powerful punch that explodes the heart of your enemy. It is, oh, no, no, no. When we do crane strike, it's this, not this. And that's how we can tell who's legit and who copied it from YouTube. Ha ha ha. The ancient, most guarded secret of my life. That makes my martial art much better than yours. But don't ask me to prove it. Look, if you try 5 different martial arts, assuming the schools or instructors are of any real merit, you're going to see the same themes popping up over and over. When I was in Krav Maga class, I would get in trouble for pulling karate techniques out, right? Like one of the techniques is a front kick in Krav Maga. Obviously, this is in karate, but we do jumping double front kick. So I would do that, jumping double front kick. And my coach would go, hey, cut that karate shit out. And I'm like, but it works. I just launched my buddy 6 feet across the room with the karate shit. Muay Thai, knees. Krav Maga, knees. Karate, hizageri. It's all the same stuff. Look, I get it, okay? You want to put your little twist on it so that you can show how quirky and unique you are, and that makes you somehow superior to everyone else. Okay, I totally get it. But you're the only one that's buying it. Stop selling it. And you just keep seeing the same things pop up everywhere. It's almost as if styles kind of don't matter. Almost. Angles, force, physics, that's what matters. So find a way to make it work. And if it works, and if Bob gets knocked out, well, then what are you whining about? Now, remember I said earlier that if someone says there's only one way to do something, blah, 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 they can't fight and they're a little bitch. There is one punch that can only be thrown one kind of way, and that is the overhand, right? If I try and throw the overhand with a vertical fist, it ends up being, I don't know, either like a windmill punch or a hammer strike. And for that, I could just do a real hammer strike much more effectively. And I wouldn't look like an idiot when they replay it on the news. Okay, because the overhand comes at this extreme angle, here I have to lift my shoulder and elbow so much higher to get these knuckles in line with the target, with his temple, chin, whatever, that it doesn't work. I'm making this artificial structure to make it happen, and the force is going to bleed out in this direction. Okay, so for the overhand, by definition, overhand, you do have to turn the hand over. I get that on camera? Good. Okay. The way to find your perfect punch is, instead of fighting or training, what you need to do is play. Play around. Try going one day at your kickboxing sparring class only throwing vertical strikes. Or in your next sparring match, make it a mission to land some really short hooks and play around with how much you twist your hand. A good way to do this is to pick a few that you think are really good candidates, drill them a bit, right? Maybe that's vertical fist, 45, and 90. Then go do something, distract yourself, don't think about it, empty your mind, and then spar and don't think about it. And just observe what comes out naturally. Maybe after priming your nervous system with these different options, you find that one just kind of naturally comes out. And unless you are only a forms kata competitor, or you are on the Chinese national team, or you have to look exactly like everyone else, then I would encourage you, find what works for you. Lean into your strengths and find out what those actually are. Your bones, ligaments, and muscles are all different lengths and proportions to other people on the planet. So when someone says, well, this is fine for me, well, maybe you blew out your shoulder playing baseball in high school. So you can't rotate over and you can only fire from a neutral position. Well, sounds like you have your answer then, huh? If we want to get technical, no punch is ever perfect, right? All the variables of your position in space versus your opponent's position, the timing, their weight, your weight, how much sleep you both got the night before, reaction times. There's too many variables to get the same exact punch every time. Focus on the principles, find some options that work, and don't sweat the small stuff. Remember, we're swinging our bones at each other. It's already ridiculous. Don't take it too seriously. I get we have the nice iron uniforms, the gold embroidery, but we're still effectively cavemen. So, so humble yourself a little bit. Maybe try something. If you're a karate absolutist, take a Wing Chun class. See what it feels like. You would be shocked at the things that feel so powerful, so perfect for you, but you just never even thought to give it a shot. Try it, and if you don't like it, then you know you hate it, and you know it doesn't work for you, and you know that I was wrong and I can't fight and I'm the bitch. Oosh. Thanks for watching. Oh!